allow the enemy to have much more of the chaos and you more of the management. So you want to make sure that as the pilot comes in, he can discern where you are, where the enemy is, he understands what his targets are, and so you want him to gather data from the soldiers on the ground.
But not every supergun is geared for killing an enemy.
West, about 20 years before the first English pilgrims settled in Plymouth. They were looking for gold and silver and had heard rumors about the legendary 7 cities of Cibola. Settlers would travel north looking for land. They established cities up and down the Rio Grande Valley like El Paso, Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Chimayo, and Taos. Here in the Southwest, the elements were and are as unforgiving as could be imagined. Instead of hurricanes and Atlantic storms, the early inhabitants faced oppressive heat, bitter cold, and almost everything in between. Fortunately, there were building materials afoot, literally. The dirt, or tierra, which makes up a good part of the landscape in this region, was the main ingredient for a home unique to the Southwest, the adobe home. Mike Taylor is an expert on the construction and conservation of adobe homes. He works with El Rancho de las Golondrinas, a living museum here outside Santa Fe, and has been studying adobe homes for over 25 years. So, Mike, what is adobe?
Adobe is sun-baked mud brick. And once those bricks dry, you take the bricks, you lay them up in a wall using the same kind of mud mortar that you use to make the adobe brick.
Now, that process didn't originate here in the Southwest, did it?
No, it didn't. Although 2,000 years ago, the use of adobe brick was really widespread down in Central America. However, the adobe bricks that we know of here in the Southwest, the idea came from North Africa up to Spain, from Spain over to Mexico, Mexico up the Camino Real to what we now know as the Great Southwest.
Now, this sounds like a pretty straightforward process. I suspect there's a little bit more to it than that. Do you actually make bricks here?
Yeah, we do. Would you like to take a look?
I'd love to, yeah.
Come on out. Well, this is Eliseo. He's an expert at making adobe bricks. And what he's doing is he's mixing this clay with this sand.
So it's not just straight clay. You have to add sand to it?
That's right. Usually you do, just so that you have a good mixture of 70% sand, the rest clay in your adobe brick.
Now, you also add straw to this, right?
That's right. Here's a little bit of straw here, and we usually throw about a handful of straw into a mix like this.
And what does that do?
Well, the straw helps cut down on the cracks when the adobe's curing.
So you mix this all up, and then what's the next step?
Well, the next step is to come over here and put it in some wooden molds. And right here we have Eduardo, and he's putting this mud into these wooden molds.
So this is about the right consistency here, eh?
That's right. That's a perfect consistency.
So these get filled completely up just with a shovel?
That's right.
Any trowel work or anything on these?
Well, you have to level them off a little bit with your hands usually.
And then how long does it have to stay in here?
These don't have to stay here long at all. The next step is just simply come over here to the mold and lift this mold up.
This one's ready to go already?
This one's ready.
So what's the trick?
Oh, the trick is lift it up at the same time, jiggle it a little.
Obviously, in those days, it was difficult to keep track of events throughout the entire Mongol Empire. But Khan came up with a way to communicate.
Genghis Khan created a large, what we might call today a Pony Express. It was a system of horse relay riders carrying information from one place to another. So whatever happened in any remote corner of Genghis Khan's empire, he knew about it very quickly. He was able to respond to it.
With relay stations every 25 miles or so, the YAM, or Pony Express, proved very effective. It moved information at an unparalleled speed. Khan's rudimentary form of battlefield communication is perhaps his most important innovation. Today, communications technology may be far more advanced, but the desire to maintain operational control is still the same.
Effective military leaders have over the centuries perfected good communications. Short, brisk commands, and everybody understands what those commands mean. It's what we try to do today.
In 1226, Genghis Khan began a campaign against the Tongan people in central China. But this fight would be his last. The following August, he died after a hunting accident. He had not only left his people an empire, he'd also left them a complex code of law to live by and a written language. But he is best remembered by soldiers and scholars as one of history's greatest military minds.
The Mongols represented the first modern army. Every army since then has had to learn how the Mongols operated. How could they move with such speed? How could they make people so afraid of them?
But not all the Mongol leaders who followed Genghis Khan had as much luck with unconventional warfare. In the 14th century, they would learn that the unexpected tactic could sometimes produce unwanted results.
You're watching Unconventional Warfare on the History Channel.
We finally put Teddy Roosevelt in his place. TR, an American Lion. Tomorrow night at 9 on the History Channel.
We here at Office Depot know you don't have a lot of time to shop for office supplies, so we make it easy with special sections loaded with the absolute essentials. Ink and toner, paper, envelopes, memo pads, files, file holders, stickies, and pens, so you can get what you really need. Really fast.
Office Depot. What you need to know.
This road isn't for everyone. It requires precise control, breathtaking acceleration, and tenacious grip. It's the road Takaran drivers tend best, and the Subaru WRX has now driven it 2 years in a row. The WRX, turbocharged power, all-wheel drive control.
See your local Subaru dealer for information on financing as low as 0.9% APR.
Purchase 20 tons of steel for the factory in Milan. Piece of cake. Next. Buy 300 hydraulic assemblies for the Washington factory by Friday. Done. Ooh, best price on titanium discs in Singapore. Look at this. 4 partners ready to bid. As you bore me.
You guys have any light bulbs?
How many pallets?
Domestic or international?
No, just one.
I can't do one.
He can't do one.
.NET Connected Software helps you connect with partners. That's software for the agile business from Microsoft.
Whether you're shopping, traveling for business, or back at school studying, this new year your family can stay in touch thanks to Verizon Wireless. Get them the America's Choice National Family Share Plan, now with unlimited night and weekend airtime minutes on up to 4 separate lines, so everyone can share all they want. Plus, hurry and buy one Motorola phone for $29.99 and get a second free, so you can have a family get-together whenever you want. Verizon Wireless, we never stop working for you.
Can you hear me now? Good.
Wherever in the world you find New York life, you'll find our values. Humanity, integrity, and financial strength guide every product we offer here at home and everywhere in the world you find us. Values that make New York life the company you keep.
At Mechanicsville Honda, we're changing the way you buy, drive, and enjoy a car. Starting with the Civic LX sedan. Drive one home for just $13,995 or $199 a month. It's loaded with features, everything you want in a car. Just $13,995 or $199 a month. But most importantly, it's a Honda with legendary dependability and quality that makes Honda the best value on the road. Get a Civic LX sedan today and see how Mechanicsville Honda is changing the way you buy, drive, and enjoy a car.
Matt, how are you?
Hey, how was your vacation?
Oh, man, Cuba was the best in the world. They've got the best cigars there.
Did you bring any back?
You know you can't bring them back into the States.
Well, you don't need to go to Cuba for a good cigar. You just need the right connections.
Cigar?
Nice.
Havana Connections is your connection with 3 locations.
Grammar, Aidan Quinn, the A&E original Benedict Arnold, A Question of Honor. Order your copy now and get $5 off our Emmy-nominated original drama, The Crossing, only at shophistorychannel.com.
Watching Unconventional Warfare on the History Channel.
Piacenza, Italy, 1348. Gabriele de Mussi, an Italian notary, sat down and wrote a tale of horror and brutality. Oh God, see how the heathen races, pouring together from all sides, suddenly infested the city of Kaffa. and besieged the trapped Christians. They ordered corpses to be placed in catapults and lobbed into the city in hope that the intolerable stench would kill everyone inside. The story of unconventional warfare he told proved once again that necessity is the mother of invention. It began 2 years earlier, 1,100 miles away, outside the walls of the Genovese city of Kaffa. Located on the north shore of the Black Sea, Kaffa was the terminal point of the Silk Road, the popular trade route from China. This outpost of Italy also lay on the border of the Mongol territories.
They were living in very close quarters, and there were many reasons for tensions to develop. We get the sense that there are a lot of flashpoints. It could have been a fist fight in the street. It could have been the desire to reclaim some wealth. It could have been anything.
The Mongols had had the city under near constant siege for 3 years, forcing the Genovese to rely on ships to deliver supplies to their walled fortress.
That doesn't mean they were living a comfortable life. A siege is obviously always a time of great stress. Not perhaps the best access to fresh foods and fresh water.
The health of Kaffa's citizens was slowly deteriorating, but the population outside the walls was at far greater risk.
In 1346, we actually have the arrival of the plague, and we have the Mongols falling sick in great numbers.
The Mongols had carried the Black Death from the east, infecting the tribes living just outside Kaffa. The Black Death was a combination of 3 forms of plague: bubonic, septicemic, and pneumonic. It caused swollen boils and dark spots on the skin from internal bleeding. As the plague ravaged the Mongol army, the corpses multiplied daily. With dwindling forces and no sign of victory, a desperate Mongol general hit upon an unconventional solution. He ordered the bodies of his own soldiers who had died from the plague to be loaded into catapults and then launched over Kaffa's walls.
Catapulting the corpses was horrifying. It's disgusting and dispiriting. It also is a warning, saying you don't want to end up like this.
Plague did indeed break out in Kaffa. Many of the residents abandoned their city and traveled to Italy.
They flee into the Mediterranean basin. They go through Constantinople. They actually spread the plague to Constantinople. They carry it down into the Mediterranean basin to Sicily, then up into the rest of Western Europe.
Some of them escaped to Gabriele de' Musi's own town of Piacenza, bringing the Black Death with them. Alas, our ships enter the port, but of 1,000 sailors, hardly 10 are spared. The Mongols' biological warfare helped to spread the most calamitous disease in the history of man, a plague that over the next 3 years would kill 25 million people, nearly 1/3 of the population of Europe. But in the end, it did the invaders no good. Even though the city of Kaffa had been nearly deserted, the Mongols were too devastated themselves by the Black Death to take advantage. Instead, they retreated. To survivors like Gabriele de' Musi, the plague was a soldier of divine and implacable power, sent from the heavens to punish sinners. Confess, O Genoa, what thou hast done, since we of Genoa and Venice are compelled to make God's chastisement manifest. De' Musi's account was that of an outsider. He had never been to Kaffa, so his credibility is questioned. It is not known for certain whether the plague-ridden bodies or some other source brought the Black Death inside Kaffa. Nor is it known if the Mongols intended for this unconventional tactic to unleash the plague on their enemies.
That particular incident, if it really occurred, is very likely the first incident of biological warfare in military history. The question becomes, did it occur? And if it did, were they aware that the plague could be spread by the decaying flesh?
The Mongols entered war to win. We have a very clear sense that if they felt that disease was on these bodies, and they might actually send this dreadful disease into the city and therefore cause harm to those that they were opposing, absolutely, they would have used it. Did they understand the pathology of plague? No.
My guess is it was done to intimidate the population. But having done that and discovered that it worked, I mean, it clearly is a form of bio-warfare, just as we see today.
Biological warfare has remained a little-used tactic, and fighting forces are still trying to develop their arsenals. But just as it was back in the 14th century, bio-warfare in modern times has proven to be highly lethal and entirely unpredictable.
It's very difficult to work with weapons like gases and poisons and biological agents. Poison gas was a World War I weapon, and when it was first used and the tanks of chlorine were opened in 1915, it was just fortunate that the wind was blowing. But when the wind swung back, of course, the German attackers who were using this were caught in their own trap.
Controlling the dispersal of biological weapons is difficult, but even the manufacture and storage of them can be dangerous. In April of 1979, an unusual anthrax outbreak occurred in the Soviet city of Sverdlovsk. At least 64 people died, and dozens more were affected. At the time, the Soviet government claimed contaminated meat was responsible. But in 1992, President Boris Yeltsin, without giving details, admitted that the outbreak occurred when anthrax spores were accidentally released from a military facility in the city.
Biological warfare is probably always going to be a threat. Has it been employed? Yeah, it has. Has it been extraordinarily successful? No, it hasn't. There are scientific difficulties in the employment of biological warfare that would just make a military commander who was attempting to use it just nuts.
Unconventional tactics often result in unintended consequences. In the 16th century, the English Navy used a variation on a novel idea and found that the gambit didn't work out quite as planned. But a spot of good luck would help them defeat the most powerful empire in the world.
You're watching Unconventional Warfare on the History Channel.
Pittsburgh Steeler Jerome Bettis and his mom served Garrett Hill Campbell's Chunky Chicken Noodle, loaded with more wholesome chicken than before. Filled up right by a great bowl, Garrett went on to bowl great.
When I'm in my car, I am sheer perfection.
I feel like a wolf. Well, that's the only time I get the love from the lady. Stereo up, 2 windows down. I'm fine. Checking everything out.
I'm saving a little bit of Mother Earth.
Speed Racer Chick.
I'm the DJ. Don't touch my stereo and don't lower my bass.
Go anywhere.
I'm going to Broadway, baby.
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Miami.
Miami.
Drive one of Toyota's 18 different models.
When I'm in my car, I look good.
Feels like good things are coming your way.
I'm going to find my mojo.
Mr. Stevens?
Yeah.
Got you down for over 130 channels, $39.99 a month.
Right. So
every channel's digital quality. There's access to 31 premium movie channels, 60 pay-per-view movie titles a month.
great. So that can go on the back of the roof?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, good. So go ahead and pull around back. You work for the cable company, huh? Yeah. Yeah.
Why settle for cable? Switch to DirecTV and get over 130 channels, only $39.99 a month. Call 1-800-DirecTV or visit a participating retailer now.
What can handlebars teach us about financial relationships? You have to reach out to make them work. They're most valuable when faced with the unexpected. Wisdom is everywhere. Uncommon wisdom is knowing how to apply it. Wachovia Securities. Talk to us.
Get an amazing PC deal now from Gateway. Buy one award-winning PC and get a second award-winning PC for free. Purchase a Gateway 700XL desktop or a Gateway 600XL notebook, and you'll get a Gateway 300S value PC for free. The Gateway 600XL notebook PC uses the mobile Intel Pentium 4 processor M. I'll take it. Call 1-800-GATEWAY now.
You realize food doesn't just come out of a can or a jar in the store. I mean, it's something that comes out of the ground.
I eat the produce that I grow. I don't buy it in the grocery store.
This is the land that Troy built.
It's a hobby that's gotten just a little out of control, maybe, but
where people work hard, live simply, and get ready for spring with legendary Troy-built rototillers.
When you get down the row and you turn your head and look back, that is so special to see that dirt all tilled so nice.
Call the number on your screen at any time to join the loyal ranks of Troy-built owners. We'll send you a free copy of our 48-page gardening guide just for calling. It's filled with tips and techniques from expert gardeners, plus detailed information on all of our tillers.
I've had produce that just came off the vine. It's still warm from the sun.
The Troy-built digs down deep to create nutrient-rich soil for bigger, more beautiful flowers and vegetables.
These babies were born in Troy-built soil.
With powerful rear-mounted tines, you can operate the rugged Troy-built with just one hand.
Just takes a little guiding, basically.
With the Troy-built rototiller, I mean, that takes all the effort out of it.
Call now for a free copy of our 48-page gardening guide and information on our complete line of Troy-built products. On select models, we'll also give you 0% financing, free freight, and a free accessory for a limited time.
I've owned my tiller for 22 years, and I'm going to pass it on to my kids.
Every Troy-built tiller comes with a limited lifetime warranty, and no matter which one you choose, the results will astound you. You'll plant a bigger garden. You'll do in hours what used to take days, and you'll actually enjoy the experience.
You don't get just the renewal of spring in the garden, you get it in yourself, too.
This is the land that Troy built. Call now and join us, or visit troybuilt.com.
You're watching Unconventional Warfare on the History Channel.
In the late 16th century, Spain was the most powerful nation in the world, a colossal empire of 100 million people spread across Asia, Africa, and the Americas.
Spain is a superpower. Spain is the United States of the 1570s and the 1580s.
The Spanish Armada was a huge navy of more than 130 ships.
Bear in mind that the Spanish ships appeared bigger because of the different type of design. They were still building very high, what you call cage works, fore and aft castle. And so they looked large.
The Armada was feared for its size, its discipline, and its cunning tactics, including fire ships, unmanned vessels that they set on fire and launched directly at the enemy's navy.
For a wooden sailing ship, the fire ship was a sort of the ultimate weapon because it could consume, destroy the ship completely. When that ship hit, it started fires, and there was no way to control those fires at sea.
This innovative strategy was soon copied by other fleets, and it would eventually be turned against them by an English admiral named Sir Francis Drake. While Drake's fireships would not actually win the war for England, their use became lodged in the public's memory. They helped rally the nation and added to Drake's legendary status as the greatest seaman in the history of the British Empire. The year was 1588. The English kingdom under Queen Elizabeth was less than 5% of the size of Spain, just 3 million people. With the Spanish superpower dominating the globe, the monarchy was nervous.
England is fearful that having mastered other areas of Europe, other areas of the world, Spain will decide that it wants to occupy, to invade, to intimidate England. England sees this as an unfair domination.
In May, their fears were realized when Spain's King Philip II sent his armada to invade England. The English defense depended on keeping the Spanish army from landing on its shores, which meant they had to battle the mighty armada for control of the seas. England had a much smaller navy than Spain, but Queen Elizabeth had the legendary Sir Francis Drake at the helm.
Our man Drake. Everything comes down to our man Drake. He's the figure which captured the imagination.
Drake, more than any other English seaman, was famous among the Spanish. They feared him. They were very impressed by his skills. He seemed to sort of always show up and be able to do what he wanted to do.
But now the formidable armada was fast approaching England, and Drake had no idea how he would keep the mighty Spaniards off of English soil. The armada was led by the Spanish Captain General, the Duke of Medina Sidonia. He planned to rendezvous in the English Channel with the Duke of Parma the commander of Spain's troops stationed in the Netherlands. Parma's forces would stage a land invasion while the Armada fought Drake's English Navy. The Spanish plan was to attack in a tight, crescent-shaped formation and overwhelm the English.
Tactically, what the Spanish hoped to do is to engage very closely with the English, to grapple and board. They are carrying a very large component of soldiers. This is the older style of naval warfare.
Drake and the English wanted to avoid an old-school naval battle at all costs.
The English had no soldiers on their ships. The English ships were manned entirely by sailors. Their view was that you had to try and sink the enemy ship. They never wanted to be close enough to be grappled, never wanted to allow the Spaniards to board them.
The Spanish needed to reprovision on the way to England. The closest port was at Calais, on the west coast of France, 20 miles from England's shores.
Medina Sidonia sent a message to the governor of Calais, may we seek refuge here, we promise we're not going to be aggressive with you, and they were given permission, and so they anchored.
Sidonia decided to wait for Parma here, but for 2 days there was no sign of the Duke.
What is Medina Sidonia to do? He can't invade without Parma's army. He has to wait. The channel at this point is narrow. The tides are very, very strong. August 1588 happens to be a spring tide. So he's waiting in a very vulnerable anchorage. All the ships are close together. They all have 2 or 3 anchors out. And he's, if you like, a sitting duck, if ever there was one.
Sir Francis Drake's scouts spotted the Armada gathered at Calais without the Duke of Parma's forces. Now was the perfect time to attack. The English leaders decided to take a page from their enemy's playbook and use fire ships.
It's very hard to know whose idea it was. Drake had certainly seen fire ships in action, so he may have put the idea forward, but it seems to me that anyone seeing the Armada anchored there off Calais, tightly clustered, would have had the same idea. It's so obvious, it would have been almost criminal not to have done it.
The English prepared 8 fire ships, not realizing that Medina Sidonia was already 1 step ahead of them.
He actually does put a vessel out there with the instructions, all right, if fire ship approaches, you're responsible for towing it out of there. And I certainly wouldn't want to be the poor hapless commander, you know, who's told to go out there and tow the fire ship because the idea is it's going to explode at some point. So that's dangerous work, really dangerous work.
The English were so nervous that they launched 2 of their fire ships before the others were ready. Despite the English Navy's misfire, the Spanish knew that they were in grave danger.
Picture yourself on the Spanish Armada, anchored between Dover and Calais in tight order, all your anchors out. The tide is running very, very strongly from the English fleet to you.
Midnight is when they first see 2 flames on the horizon. Now, why midnight? It's not just because that makes it particularly dramatic and it's nighttime, but it's also when the tide was cresting.
The Spanish intercepted the first 2 fire ships, but they were unable to head off the other 6.
Those Spanish sailors, oh my God, this isn't putting my ship close to the enemy's ship and engaging in broadsides and cutlasses and various other things. This is something I can't stop. This is something that's drifting on the current down toward me. And if it contacts me, I'm in the worst nightmare of a sailor of that era. I'm on fire and out of sight of land. And I don't know what I can do.
As those 6 approach the Spanish fleet, there is really only one alternative, and that is to cut the cables and to run like hell. You don't have time to wind in the anchors, so the Spaniards leave all their anchors.
But the great fire ship attack by Sir Francis Drake and his navy was in fact a dud.
Not a single Spanish ship was set afire by the fire ships. The fire ships eventually just simply went straight through the anchorage, came ashore, and burnt out.
This tactic itself failed, but the unintended consequences were wildly successful. In their rush to escape a fiery death, the Spanish sailors panicked and the fleet scattered.
When dawn breaks on the 8th of August and the English and the Spaniards have a chance to see where they are, it's clear that the English fleet is in tight formation and the Spanish fleet is scattered widely over the North Sea. So the English advance, and they get in there as quickly as they can.
While attacking the Armada, Drake gained a crucial bit of inside information. He captured a Spanish captain and learned that the Armada didn't have the capability to reload their guns after one shot. The Spanish had been so successful at boarding enemy ships that it wasn't thought necessary. In contrast, the English had the ability to fire 400 or 500 rounds from their guns. Drake isolated a Spanish ship. He circled it, firing away, and crippled the vessel. Armed with this strategy, the English Navy pressed the attack.
They go in and they just pound away, sometimes very close indeed. One of the English sources says we were within hailing distance. Now, above the noise and fury of battle, to be able to shout and be heard means you're pretty close. So firing 40, 50-pound guns into the Spaniards at very, very close range was clearly devastating.
The Armada's ally, the Duke of Parma, never showed up, and the English took on the powerful Armada, one ship at a time.
It is true that only one ship is sunk on the day, but a number of the others are fatally wounded.
The Armada was forced to retreat by heading north around Scotland and Ireland.
And as they limp away, one after another, they will be buffeted by the waves and will in fact come apart. So out of 130 ships, perhaps only 70 make it back to Spain. Of the troops aboard the fleet, of the 27,000 or so men who sailed, perhaps 13,000 celebrate the new year. Again, a 50% loss. This is a human and material catastrophe of unprecedented proportions for Spain.
The defeat of the Armada not only secured the safety of England, but also helped to establish the country as a superpower. Despite the fact that the victory was gained mostly through very conventional means, superior firepower, Sir Francis Drake and the fire ships passed into legend, inspiring the English Navy for years to come.
The popular understanding as this unfolded over time was that fire ships had been really decisive. It's sort of a flamboyant gesture.
The fire ships were an effective weapon for their time, although they were highly unreliable. In modern times, technology has improved on the concept. Laser-guided missiles, remote control bombers, and other unmanned weapons have all become part of today's warfare. But the flamboyant gesture that Sir Francis Drake is remembered for was most closely echoed on October 12, 2000, by a group of terrorists who sought to strike out at today's equivalent of the Spanish Armada.
The modern parallel would be those who bombed the USS Cole, using a little bomb ship and a tactic that was not dissimilar to that of the fire ships.
The Navy vessel was docked in Yemen when terrorists on a suicide mission piloted a small raft full of explosives right up to its hull and blew a hole in it. 17 Americans were killed and dozens of others were wounded. Like Sir Francis Drake's fire ships, the attack had long-lasting symbolic value.
You get the United States, a superpower, to pause and rethink what their naval strategy should be in that region of the world. Should we even be docking in Yemen? With one small ship filled with combustibles, yeah, you've achieved something.
Terrorists may again take a page from the history of unconventional warfare and put millions in peril. Their inspiration, the British, who in the 18th century discovered that a dreaded disease, smallpox, could also be turned into a highly effective weapon.
Tomorrow I shall come into office in my own right. Then, watch out for me.
TR, An American Lion, begins tomorrow on the History Channel.
We here at Office Depot know you don't have a lot of time to shop for office supplies, so we make it easy with special sections loaded with the absolute essentials. Ink and toner, paper, envelopes, memo pads, files, file holders, stickies, and pens, so you can get what you really need. Really fast.
Office Depot. What you need to know.
I think arthritis can change the way you perceive yourself, if you let it.
Fight back with Tylenol arthritis pain. Just 2 caplets in the morning have the strength to last all day.
help of HP technology and HP services, the world's space agencies can focus on getting their explorers home safely.
What stands the test of time? Our strongest bonds, our fundamental values. At New York Life, our humanity, integrity, and financial strength provide protection and security for millions of families through changing times. Values that make New York Life the company you keep.
All new 220 horses and one more thing. The all-new 220 horsepower Mazda 6.
Yo, yes, you're excited. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking Beneful. You've never seen anything like it before. It has wholesome grains, real beef, even carrots and peas. It has carbohydrates for energy and protein for those serious muscles. And you even get some vegetables. So happy. Love it so much you only think you're getting spoiled. Yes, you do. But it's good for you, too.
Healthful, flavorful, Beneful. Beneful brand by Purina.
Here's a helpful tip from HGTV. To help you keep a can of oil-based paint fresh, before storing the leftover paint, add in a tablespoon of mineral spirits. This will form a thin layer of protective coating, preventing a hard skin from forming on the surface of the remaining paint. Then replace the can's lid and put it away until the next time you need to paint.
This helpful tip brought to you locally by Pleasance Hardware. Most anything since 1915.
The Rotary Club of South Richmond and Wachovia present An Evening with Barbara Bush. The former First Lady's visit on January 27th includes dinner and remarks in the Grand Ballroom of the Richmond Downtown Marriott Hotel. The gala event will benefit the new pediatric floor of Richmond's Hospital Hospitality House, supporting children undergoing life-saving surgeries. Reserve seating is $300 per couple. Wachovia's Evening with Barbara Bush. Call 804-565-6016.
You're watching Unconventional Warfare on the History Channel.
Bioterrorism. After the anthrax attacks that followed September 11th, 2001, the nightmare that a terrorist might use biological agents to wage war became all too real.
There's a potential for a very few people to cause really catastrophic problems.
And anthrax is only one of the substances that could wreak havoc on a population. Scientists and military leaders are concerned about other biotoxins. In particular, one that has already played a part in the history of unconventional warfare, smallpox.
Throughout history, this has been one of the most serious diseases known to mankind, even in the 20th century. Smallpox, we estimate to have killed more than 300 million people.
Smallpox is a virus that is spread from person to person by airborne particles. Early symptoms include a high fever, aching pains in the abdomen and the chest, headache, and severe influenza.
After 2 to 3 days, a rash begins. And first it begins as little tiny, small, like pimples. And the pimples become bigger, and pus gets into those pimples, and they become enlarged. This is very painful.
The disease originated some 4,000 years ago in Africa and claimed countless lives. Those who did survive it, however, were from then on immune.
So, if you get it, you're cursed for the moment. If you survive it, you're blessed for life.
Infected British brought smallpox to North America and to the Native American population, which had never before encountered the disease. This innocent spread of smallpox devastated the American Indian. But one group of British soldiers actually tried to infect them with the virus. Their deadly gambit, one of the first confirmed instances of deliberate germ warfare, has proven to be an enduring tactic. And today, there is a fear that terrorist groups may resort to biowar with the same deadly disease used by the British more than 2 centuries ago. It was June 1763. The British were being attacked at Fort Pitt by Indians from the Shawnee, Delaware, and Mingos tribes, a siege known as Pontiac's Rebellion. At that moment, a number of soldiers at Fort Pitt had smallpox. A makeshift hospital had been set up to care for them. For the British, however, the disease was less of a threat, because most of them were already immune. The news of the outbreak reached British Commander Lord Geoffrey Amherst in New York, and he saw an opportunity to wage unconventional war on the Native Americans.
Amherst gets this letter, and he has a light bulb moment, and he thinks, aha, let's infect the Indians with smallpox. Amherst writes back to them and says, why don't you endeavor to give the Indians smallpox? By means of some blankets you could take out of the smallpox hospital.
The fact that the disease would kill women and children as well as Indian warriors was of no consequence to Amherst.
The ethics of warfare in the 18th century are really quite interesting. You were expected to fight according to the rules of war, except when you were fighting against savages or rebels.
Amherst mailed his letter, but his men were one step ahead of him.
What's really interesting is that the governor of Fort Pitt has already had the same idea.
They understood that the disease could be communicated through an inanimate object, such as a blanket or a piece of clothing.
On June 24, 1763, negotiations to stop Pontiac's rebellion were held outside Fort Pitt. The Indians demanded that the British give up the fort. The British refused.
As the Indians departed, the British gave them a gift, and the gift was described in the journal of a trader at Fort Pitt as 2 blankets and a handkerchief out of the smallpox hospital. He closed his journal entry by saying, we hope it will have the desired effect.
That trader recorded this act of bioterrorism as simply another entry in his journal.
This is as close to a smoking gun as you're going to get. The governor of Fort Pitt deliberately infects the Indians.
An epidemic of smallpox did ravage the Native Americans around Fort Pitt, although no one will ever know if the gifts they received were solely responsible.
The problem is, we can't say for certain that those Indians got that smallpox from those blankets. They could have acquired it from some other source.
Regardless of the effectiveness of the blankets, the British Army's use of smallpox would set a precedent, and a dangerous one at that. The virus would again rear its ugly head during the Cold War. Smallpox was a health risk in America well into the 20th century. The last reported case in the U.S. was in 1949, yet all children were still required to be vaccinated until 1972. Health officials around the world worked fervently to eradicate the disease. Dr. Donald Henderson spearheaded America's efforts in tandem with its Cold War rival, the Soviet Union.
It was the Soviet Union which originally proposed to the World Health Organization that smallpox be eradicated. The big program began in 1967. The Soviet Union provided each year 25 million doses of vaccine. Very good vaccine. If we hadn't had the Soviet vaccine, we would not have had enough vaccine to do the job.
But the Soviet military machine had less altruistic intentions. In 1972, over 70 countries at the Biological Weapons Convention, including the Soviet Union, Iraq, Britain, and the United States, pledged to destroy whatever biological weapons they had and cease development of others. In 1980, the World Health Assembly declared that smallpox had been eradicated around the globe and recommended that all countries stop with vaccinations. Soon after, the Soviets reneged on their pledge and began testing it for use as a weapon.
The Soviet Union decided to weaponize smallpox about 1980. That year, they began an effort which extended over 6 or 7 years to produce smallpox virus in huge quantities.
In 1992, the deputy director of the Soviet bioweapons programs, 42-year-old Ken Alibek, came to the U.S. Alibek gave American officials an insider's account of the super-secret operation and its horrifying possibilities.
If some of the stories are to be believed, there were whole systems of Soviet bioweapons planned, prepared, and stockpiled to be used in a second volley of intercontinental ballistic missiles against American cities, so that after the first nuclear weapon went off over, let's say, Chicago, if you survived the shock and the blast and the radiation didn't kill you, the disease would.
In 1992, Soviet President Boris Yeltsin ordered that the majority of the smallpox stocks be destroyed and the labs closed.
But there are certain major plants which did not seem to be really under the control of the president. One in Sergiev Posad, not too far from Moscow, actually was the major producer of smallpox virus. That plant is still very secret.
No one knows exactly what has happened to the stockpile of Russia's Cold War smallpox, or to the scientists who helped to produce it.
Some have come to the United States, some have gone elsewhere. Some have clearly gone to countries such as Iraq or Syria or Iran, countries which are felt to have and are interested in producing biological weapons, or at least being involved in terrorist activities.
Should a terrorist or a rogue nation decide to unleash this unconventional warfare tactic on the world, the results could be catastrophic.
We have a population which is essentially almost totally unprotected against the disease. No one under roughly age 30 has been vaccinated, so they have no protection. Many of those over age 30 were vaccinated once and then many years ago. And for most of those people, the protection is probably pretty close to zero as well.
It truly is a potent weapon because there is no smallpox anywhere in the world, and it's a very infectious disease. It would rapidly surge through populations around the world.
Today, I think, because so few of us have immunity, we're rapidly approaching the point where, in a sense, we are all Indians.
Before September 11th, the fear that terrorists would take a page from history seemed like a distant possibility. But the strikes on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon were a warfare tactic that harkened back to a series of assaults on American warships by Japanese suicide pilots called kamikazes.
You're watching Unconventional Warfare on the History Channel.
Think you got the right stuff.
It's my turn. I have to get ready.
First, get on your horse and joust.
It wasn't me.
Then, you're going to go hand to hand.
You're joking? I wouldn't do that.
So please, for your own sake, make sure you win. Otherwise, tournament on Conquest. Tonight at 10:30 on the History Channel.
Wow, Chicago-style deep dish. Yeah, from Chicago. Yeah. But this is Tucson. This is Tucson. How much was that delivery charge? Marcia?
DiGiorno deep dish Chicago style. Deep in toppings, deep in cheese.
Chicago, Tucson. It's still hot. Marcia?
It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno.
How about this one, babe? We somehow find everybody who bought the CD last week in Chicago.
From the database. Sweet.
And when the band gets to Chicago, we contact all those fans.
Through the mail server.
Sweet. And we offer them a t-shirt, concert ticket, something.
From the online store. Sweet.
Oh, that, babe, would rock.
Sweet. What are you rocking, babe?
Sweet.
.NET Connected Software helps you connect with customers. That's software for the agile business. From Microsoft.
Where are the cars we were promised? The dream cars. The problem-solving cars. Where are the cars that are more than just cars? They're closer than you think. cars with voice recognition, cars with intelligent cruise control, and a class-leading 340 horsepower engine, the Q45 from Infiniti.
Extra milk?
They don't shop like most people. They shop like small business people.
Careful.
Shouldn't they get rewarded no matter how much they spend?
Big enough for you? This is great, yeah.
With Open, the Small Business Network, small businesses get the rewards program they deserve, but only when they get the American Express business card.
I deal with life and death situations.
We touch a lot of lives every day.
I can't have a bad day.
It's a fight all the way, and for me, I have to win that fight.
People's lives are in your hands.
I've seen kindness heal.
I never get bored. I saved a life. I know it.
Balance, climbing ability, and strength, able to lift several tons using its entire body, or up to 450 pounds with a single leg. But independent thought and outdoor navigation still eluded even this impressive robot. Ambler was created at Carnegie Mellon to be fully autonomous and take on tough terrain like large boulders and deep crevices. Unlike animals or insects, Ambler could move any of its 6 legs independently. The robot's vision and reasoning systems allowed it to plan leg placements up to 1,000 moves ahead, as if playing a masterful game of chess.
The first couple times we moved it, it was pretty scary. It's almost like a building next to you is getting ready to shift. Almost all of these things, when you first start them up, you don't know what they're going to do, so you sort of put them in a condition where they're not going to hurt anybody, and you stand back.
But this much thought required a massive superstructure weighing thousands of pounds.
Ambler was self-contained, self-reliant with everything on board. Once the sensing came on board, once the computers came on board, there was a need for power. That increased the mass, that increased the scale, and this was a problem that spiraled, feeding itself, and the scale of Ambler is a result.
Ambler had been intended to explore Mars, but its monstrous size made that trip impossible. Instead, Red Whitaker's team had to find new, dangerous territory on Earth for Ambler's descendants. The scientists chose the Mount Erebus volcano in Antarctica. The robot to explore this uncharted hellhole was an 8-legged walker known as Dante. The robot went through rigorous testing on the slag heap of an abandoned Pittsburgh steel mill before making the 13,000-mile trip to the White Continent.
We deployed Dante onto the volcano in thousands of little pieces and parts with 250,000 lines of fresh software, new sensors, new physical form. In tents at 10,000 feet, we assembled it piece by piece, downloaded software, brought it to life. I was amazed this thing walked.
In the end, it was ice rather than fire that killed Dante. Wiring and circuitry intended to withstand the extreme heat of an active volcano was unable to survive the severe cold at the top of the mountain, and Dante failed after only 3 steps. The makers of Dante went back to the drawing board and redesigned their creation. New leg configurations, joint placements, and metals made Dante 2's legs 3 times as strong as its predecessor. Dante 2 was sent into Mount Spur, an Alaskan volcano. Step by step, it negotiated loose terrain and withstood a barrage of falling rocks as it made its unprecedented descent. Dante's sensors allowed researchers to take seismic readings, view video images, and even smell the chemical content of the air, all from their command post in Anchorage, over 200 miles away. Eventually, the extreme terrain and high winds combined to tip over Dante II, and the robot had to be airlifted to safety. Red Whitaker and his field robots team have helped build an industry for robots that step in when our own technology backfires. They've gone into nuclear reactors and noxious volcanoes. But other scientists are dealing with a subject even more daunting: rush hour traffic.
Robots will return in a moment here on the History Channel.
You realize food doesn't just come out of a can or a jar in the store. I mean, it's something that comes out of the ground.
I eat the produce that I grow. I don't buy it in the grocery store.
This is the land that Troy built.
It's a hobby that's gotten just a little out of control, maybe, but
Where people work hard, live simply, and get ready for spring with legendary Troy-built rototillers.
when you get down the row and you turn your head and look back, that is so special to see that dirt all tilled so nice.
Call the number on your screen at any time to join the loyal ranks of Troy-built owners. We'll send you a free copy of our 48-page gardening guide just for calling. It's filled with tips and techniques from expert gardeners, plus detailed information on all of our tillers.
I've had produce that just came off the vine and still warm from the sun.
The Troy-built digs down deep to create nutrient-rich soil for bigger, more beautiful flowers and vegetables.
These babies were born in Troy-built soil.
With powerful rear-mounted tines, you can operate the rugged Troy-built with just one hand.
It just takes a little guiding, basically.
With the Troy-built rototiller, I mean, that takes all the effort out of it.
Call now for a free copy of our 48-page gardening guide and information on our complete line of Troy-built products. On select models,
the Predator is more than just an air vehicle. Actually, it's four. It includes the air vehicle, the ground station, and the satellite links to take real-time imagery and bring it right back into the theater commander's facility so he can understand what's going on the battlefield.
With Predator, with the UAV, you have the obvious advantage of not having a person in the cockpit. But one of the functions that this particular system serves today that is different from the past is that it provides real-time motion video.
Small and relatively simple, with the ability to carry minimal reconnaissance payloads over distances of up to 500 miles, the Predator has proven its worth time and time again. Yet as superb as the Predator is, it is not the ultimate in UAVs. That honor goes to an even more advanced aircraft, with the world-spanning name Global Hawk.
The Global Hawk is a high-altitude, long-endurance unmanned aerial vehicle. In other words, it can fly for a distance of 1,200 nautical miles, can stay on station, orbiting, taking pictures for a period of 24 hours, and then return back to base. What that means is, in its period of time that it can stay airborne, it can take pictures over a 40,000 nautical mile square area, or about the size of the state of Illinois.
The pilots, safely behind the lines, send their aircraft into danger, probing high above enemy territory.
The plane itself, the wingspan is 116 feet. That is, it has the wingspan of a 737 passenger airliner. It is 44 feet long and is about the height of 2.5 men, or about 15 feet from the ground to the top of the tail. It has a 2,000-pound payload, which means it can carry 2,000 pounds worth of electronic equipment.
The Global Hawk transmits its data to a satellite, which then routes it to the pilots. Once the UAV passes its intelligence to the communications satellite, the data can be sent anywhere, to the battlefield commander, or around the world to the Pentagon. Capable of flying for long periods at over 65,000 feet, Global Hawk has unprecedented altitude potential for a UAV. But the Hawk has another capability, one that makes it unique from any operational UAV in the world. Utilizing a pre-programmed autonomous flight plan, it can fly its mission completely under the control of its onboard computers, without the need for a pilot of any kind.
Recently, it flew a mission across the Atlantic Ocean and back autonomously, and it flew that mission over a 28-hour period non-stop and unrefueled.
The Global Hawk's ability to observe a battlefield from 60,000 feet provides ground troops with vital intelligence. But even this remarkable technology has limits. There are times when a soldier's life may depend not on having a God's eye view of an entire city, but on knowing what's inside a single building. The vehicle that can give him this information may be from a unique group of experimental aircraft called mini UAVs.
Fly Past will return in a moment here on the History Channel.
Don't act like a swan. Be a swan.
I don't think I'm swan material. Sorry, kind of new at this.
That's okay. It's good to try new things.
That's what I tell people about 10-10-220.
I use that. All my calls up to 20 minutes are 99 cents.
I haven't signed up for that.
You don't have to. Just dial 10-10-220, then 1 and the number.
That's easy.
It sure is. I knew you could do it.
I think I'm stuck.
Dial 10-10-220. According to the Wall Street Journal, indoor air pollution can be up to 5 times worse than the air outdoors. Clean air can be the difference between living comfortably or being miserable. Sharper Image introduces the ultimate clean air solution, the patented Ionic Breeze Quadra. Exclusive Xeneon technology cleans and circulates air without a fan or filters and is totally silent. Here's how it works. First, the Ionic Breeze positively charges the incoming air. Then the air is pulled toward the negatively charged grid like a magnet. The positively charged contaminants attach to the collection grid, and then the cleaned air is accelerated into the room, creating a fresh, clean smell. Cleaning takes only minutes. Just pull out the collection grid, wipe it with a damp cloth or sponge, and slip it back in. It's that simple. Studies have proven the Ionic Breeze removes allergens such as pollen and animal dander. It even removes airborne bacteria and some harmful chemicals from carpeting, paint, and household cleaners. It powers through smoke and offensive odors and leaves your house smelling fresh and clean. Don't be misled by the prices of other filters. Over 5 years, hidden costs of filter replacements and electricity can add up to over $1,000. The Ionic Breeze Quadra requires no filters and uses almost no electricity. Try it in your home for 2 months. If you don't love it, send it back. Sharper Image will give you a full refund. Through this exclusive offer, Sharper Image will send you a free bathroom Ionic Breeze. This compact plug-in helps even dirty bathrooms smell fresh and clean 24 hours a day. The $69 bathroom Ionic Breeze is yours free when you order today. And that's not all. Call now and be sure to ask about free shipping.
Call 1-800-875-4453. Help eliminate chemicals, allergens, and odors with the Ionic Breeze Quadra. That's 1-800-875-4453. The History Channel now returns to Fly Past.
Reconnaissance drones have been a part of military intelligence since the 1960s. They are large flying machines, too massive to be of use to a single soldier or squad. They could look down on buildings, but not inside them. The micro-air vehicle, called MAVs, are designed to change all that. The ultimate spies, they're too small and slow to alert enemy sensors.
The MAVs are about the size of a small bird, and I believe they are detected by radar as such, and they come up as a bird, and typically they're filtered out by the automatic software in the radar system, so they typically don't show up on the radar screens.
Once perfected, these amazing machines, with their ability to penetrate the insides of hostile or damaged structures, will not only benefit the military, but will aid law enforcement and rescue workers.
For law enforcement, they could be used in a hostage situation where you're trying to see what's going on, say on a rooftop or something, and you could quickly deploy an MAV and see what's happening up there. before you could get a full-size helicopter on station. And similarly for rescue work, if you have any toxic or hazardous materials in the air, you can send in an MAV quickly and find out where the people are, what's going on, without sending actual firefighters or rescue people in.
Micro-air vehicles were born in 1992 at a workshop held by DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, at the RAND Corporation in Santa Monica, California. In April 1996, a California company called AeroVironment started development on just such a vehicle. In 1997, DARPA also started a 4-year effort to develop MAVs. Joining with DARPA shortly thereafter, AeroVironment created the Black Widow, an aerial spy weighing only 2 ounces that's smaller than a salad plate.
The current capability of our Black Widow MAV that we've developed for DARPA is that this aircraft can fly for 30 minutes out to 2 kilometers at a cruise speed of 30 miles per hour while carrying a color video camera the size of a sugar cube with an onboard video transmitter that allows the color video to be sent back to the ground station 2 kilometers away.
Some of the challenges the designers face with MAVs are miniaturizing sensors so they can give real-time information and have the power to broadcast over a relatively broad area.
The heart of the Black Widow is comprised of a variety of miniaturized subsystems. We can see those better in this clear engineering mock-up of the aircraft. We see the battery pack, the flight computer, sensor suite, communications, video camera payload, gyro stabilization, and actuators.
Most MAVs use propellers to drive them through the air, but in the years ahead, others may turn to nature for inspiration.
To push the idea of these micro-air vehicles even further into the future, DARPA is having us look at flapping wing flight, where we can emulate birds or even insects and get the aircraft down to wingspans of maybe 1 inch or less. And towards that, we've been looking at these mechanical ornithopters, which are flapping wing aircraft. We have this prototype that's currently flying for 20 seconds.
Vehicles like Black Widow, Predator, and Global Hawk are on the cutting edge of a revolution in gathering battlefield reconnaissance. But as vital as the job is, it cannot by itself destroy an enemy. For the moment, that's the job of manned weapons and aircraft and unmanned missiles like the Tomahawk. However, that is about to change with the development of a remarkable family of aircraft called Unmanned Combat Aerial Vehicles, the UCAVs.
Politicians don't like to send America's men and women into harm's way. They'd much rather send something like a Tomahawk land attack missile. The problem is that you send the Tomahawk land attack missile and it doesn't come back. The new generation of these unmanned combat air vehicles are designed to go drop a bomb, but come back so you can use it again.
Some designers dream that UCAVs will be able to take on enemy fighters in one-on-one combat. The reality will be less flamboyant, perhaps, but no less important.
The original doctrine, the original thinking is that there would be unmanned combat air vehicles, UCAVs, that will be designed for the counter-air or air dominance or air-to-air role. They were planning on building these machines with this 12G capability so that they could outmaneuver any aircraft flown by a human being.
One of the primary reasons that these high-performance goals were dropped was the rapidly advancing technology of stealth, which made it possible to render an aircraft virtually invisible to enemy sensors.
The thinking is that if you make it stealthy enough, you don't need to make it super agile, and you can actually make the aircraft less expensive as a result. Send it in undetected, let it perform the mission, come back. The school of thought is now if you can operate these aircraft 8 or 9 times, they pay for themselves.
Just like the Global Hawk, UCAVs will also be designed to operate without the need for human intervention.
These aircraft are not going to be flown by operators at ground stations with a computer screen and a control stick. They're going to be programmed before they leave the ground.
Design features, such as the ability to fly autonomously, help make the UCAVs among the most sophisticated experimental aircraft in the world today.
If the unmanned air vehicle enters the fleet in the 2010 time frame, as current forecasts seem to call for, and proves to be successful, it's going to change the face of military aviation forever.
Unmanned aircraft are not only the province of surveillance and combat. Science and technology also have goals for these remarkable planes. One of them is to make a craft for commercial applications that can cruise the skies with the independence of a sailing ship, powered only by the sun.
Fly Past will return in a moment here on the History Channel.
Tomorrow I shall come into office in my own right. Then, watch out for me. We are not building this country for a day. It is to last through the ages. No other president ever enjoyed the presidency as I did. San Juan was the great day of my life.
Rough Rider, war hero, president. TR, an American Lion. Tonight at 9 on the History Channel.
This thing that calls to you first thing in the morning. This thing that beckons and teases. That says, here I am, what are you waiting for? Could be on its way out. Introducing the new Commit Lozenge, an FDA-approved medicine that has the power to help fight your addiction and help you quit. Commit's medicine keeps working even after the lozenge is gone. You use less and less until you use none. Making this thing just a thing. The new Commit Lozenge. Real power, real help.
Available for the first time, the Red Skelton Estate has released the greatest and funniest moments of Red's years on NBC. For over 50 years, Red Skelton entertained and delighted audiences unlike any other comedian. Not seen for over 30 years, we now offer this special authorized 3-hour set of America's favorite clown, Red Skelton in living color, the NBC years. Bring back the delightful memories of Clem Kadiddlehopper.
Careful, there's hair under there, buddy.
Freddie the Freeloader, San Fernando Red, and Sheriff Deadeye.
Why do you wear your watch out all the time? I didn't have it out. Now ask.
Featuring a galaxy of your favorite stars.
After I got out of the war, there was nothing to do.
You in war? What'd you do in the army?
One of my dreams have come true, and that was to work with the clown mastery of the master.
Call now.
Hello, operator.
3 hilarious hours of true family entertainment.
You bet it is.
Wild, spontaneous, and unpredictable hilarity.
Even with the big coat on, I know that's her.
With all the live flubs and bloopers included.
Hey, there ain't $200 bucks worth. You want now,
Order this never-before-available 3-hour collection, Red Skelton in living color, the NBC years. Call within the next 30 minutes, and the Red Skelton family will add a very special gift, free. The Red Skelton Christmas Special in glorious color. A total of 4 full hours of the best of Red Skelton will be in your home for 2 easy payments of $19.99. Ask about the limited edition collector's lithograph of Red. That's 4 full hours in living color, only available through this exclusive TV offer. Call now and receive the special Christmas bonus tape.
And may God bless. Good night.
Call the number on your screen now and have Red Skelton back in your home. Ask how to receive rush delivery. Credit card, check, or money order. Call now.
The History Channel now returns to Fly Past.
In the era of sail, mariners were journeying on the sea, powered by nothing but the wind. Since the supply was virtually inexhaustible, their ships were self-contained worlds, free of the land for as long as food and water held out. When man started to fly, the need for fuel meant that his voyages in the air were far more limited. Even today, with in-flight refueling, flights rarely last more than a day. But what if a fuel could be found that would keep an aircraft aloft in the nearly endless way that wind moves sailing ships? There is a source of power that might do the job. And unlike jet fuel or gasoline, an aircraft wouldn't even have to carry it. That power source is sunlight, offering the possibility of eternal flight. Powered by solar cells linked to electric motors, these unmanned flying wings are being sponsored by NASA's Environmental Research Aircraft Sensor Technology Program, called AIRAST. Its primary goal is to create slow-flying, remotely operated aircraft that can stay aloft for weeks and months at a time, performing commercial and scientific missions that are now usually carried out by satellites, but at a fraction of the cost. They will fly at altitudes of over 60,000 feet, 10 miles above the Earth. One of the key developers is AeroVironment of Simi Valley, California.
For NASA ERAST, we're developing an airplane that will provide the same services that you would get if you had a 10-mile high tower. Of course, you can't build a 10-mile high tower from the ground. There's no way to do that. But if we can put an airplane up continuously at 10 miles high, then we can do that job. And the jobs the airplane can do are provide communication relay, broadband internet services to houses, and surveillance for all sorts of things.
The current test aircraft have already set endurance and altitude records. In 1997, one huge solar-powered plane, the Pathfinder Plus, an enlarged version of an earlier craft called Pathfinder, set an amazing world record.
Pathfinder Plus set an altitude record of over 80,000 feet. It's the highest flying propeller-driven airplane in the world to date.
At 121 feet, the Pathfinder Plus's wingspan is huge, but the takeoff weight is only 700 pounds. Weight is important in any aircraft, but with the relatively limited amounts of power developed by solar cells, it's critical.
We're building solar-powered airplanes that have to fly very high and for very long durations, and the design challenges we face to do that are ones of making the airplanes very efficient, very large, and very lightweight.
As big as Pathfinder Plus is, however, it is only the beginning. The Centurion, Pathfinder Plus's successor, has a wingspan of 206 feet, 70% longer than Pathfinder Plus, yet weighs in at only 1,385 pounds. The goal of this aircraft is to reach altitudes significantly higher than the 80,000 feet of Pathfinder Plus.
We've been gradually making the airplanes fly to higher and higher altitudes and have the ability to fly longer and longer durations. Centurion was built to fly to 100,000 feet, which is extremely high for a propeller-driven airplane.
Reaching such amazing heights takes a great deal of time for one of these aircraft.
These solar-powered airplanes fly relatively slow at sea level, and they climb relatively slow, climb at about 300 feet per minute. So it takes roughly a half a day, 6 to 8 hours to get to its operating altitude at about 60,000 feet.
Helios, the follow-on aircraft to Centurion, will be even larger, with a wingspan of 247 feet, greater than a 747 jumbo jet.
The main difference between Pathfinder, Pathfinder Plus, Centurion, and Helios is the size of the vehicle. We've been gradually making these flying wings bigger and bigger. And when you make a solar-powered flying wing bigger, of course, it can collect more sunlight and get more power to fly. And when you have more power, the airplane can fly higher and it can fly longer. If you can keep an airplane up for over 100 hours, you've been able to stay up through 4 nights. And by doing that, we have proven that we didn't cheat by bringing energy from the Earth with us. And in a sense, if you can stay up for 4 days, you can stay up for 6 months, you can stay up for very long durations.
To achieve this goal, Helios will carry a fuel cell energy storage system designed to hoard energy during the day, thus enabling Helios to fly through the night. Thanks to this system, Helios will be capable of staying aloft longer than any aircraft ever devised, flying up to 6 months at a time from 50 to 70,000 feet while carrying a 200-pound payload. Solar power offers one more important advantage over conventional fuels.
Of course, solar-powered airplanes don't pollute the environment, and they'll be very friendly to the Earth.
Circling gently above the Earth at altitudes of nearly 19 miles, aircraft like these are virtually invisible to the naked eye. Yet it takes another kind of advanced technology to make an aircraft invisible to the electronic eyes of radar. That technology is called stealth. and it is being utilized in a whole group of aircraft that promise to revolutionize aerial warfare.
Fly Past will return in a moment here on the History Channel.
R. Lee Ermey is facing his greatest challenge. Your questions.
Can it, numbnuts! Now listen up. Want to know how to drive a tank? How a gas mask works? What dog tags are used for? I know all the answers, so ask the questions, maggot!
Mail call, Sunday nights at 10 on the History Channel. Ask at your own risk.
It's LensCrafters' best $99 offer ever. Right now, get a complete pair of glasses with DuraLens, our most scratch-resistant plastic lens for only $99. The $99 DuraLens event. This is one you don't want to miss.
Hurry, offer ends soon. When I wear black, even a little dandruff shows. My old dandruff shampoo just wasn't cutting it. So I switched to Selsun Blue Moisturizing Shampoo. Doctor recommended for flakes and itch with aloe and moisturizers for healthier hair and scalp. Never wear black without the blue. Selsun Blue.
In case you didn't know, Aleve is the only leading pain reliever that contains the fast-acting form of the medicine found in prescription naproxen, which means people in tough pain may not have to rely on a prescription for relief, when just 2 Aleve have the strength to stop their pain all day without a prescription. After all, Aleve's not a prescription. It's just the next best thing. Aleve. All day strong, all day long.
The Rotary Club of South Richmond and Wachovia present An Evening with Barbara Bush. The former First Lady's visit on January 27th includes dinner and remarks in the Grand Ballroom of the Richmond Downtown Marriott Hotel. The gala event will benefit the new pediatric floor of Richmond's Hospital Hospitality House, supporting children undergoing life-saving surgeries. Reserve seating is $300 per couple. Wachovia's Evening with Barbara Bush. Call 804-565-6016.
Here's a helpful tip from HGTV and a way to minimize cleanup and conserve water on your next painting project. Line a paint tray with a plastic or brown paper bag. You may have to cut the bag for a better fit. Then pour in latex paint over the bag and paint as usual. After you're finished with your painting project, you can let any leftover paint dry and throw the entire bag away. You can also use disposable brushes.
This helpful tip brought to you locally by Pleasance Hardware. Most anything since 1915.
He was an American original. Discover the beauty of Theodore Roosevelt's America by entering the TR Rough Riding Outdoor Adventure Sweepstakes. Register at HistoryChannel.com and receive prizes from Sierra Trading Post, Snapfish.com, and Vermont Teddy Bear Company. Grand prize winners enjoy trips to 5 national parks. Watch TR and American Lion to win.
The History Channel now returns to Fly Past, the Cutting Edge.
It has long been a goal of the military to cloak their forces from the eyes of the enemy, to make them invisible. This objective became a reality during the Gulf War in 1991. During that conflict, a dark, angular warplane called the F-117 streaked across the night sky with impunity, immune to Iraqi sensors. It struck, undetected, with precision, then was gone, and an old word took on a new and deadly meaning. Stealth.
Basic term, stealth is the ability to operate without being detected. It involves several different methods of detection. It's trying to make yourself invisible from radar, from infrared, from electromagnetic emissions like radio waves, and also now from just being seen by the human eye or heard by the human ear.
But it wasn't until the late 1970s that radar-defeating forms of stealth technology were applied to aircraft. The early generation of these planes, such as the F-117 and the larger B-2, were all specialized, expensive, and subsonic. Speed performance was sacrificed for stealth. The aim for the next generation of stealth aircraft was to take them out of the exotic arena and make them the everyday operational backbone of the Air Force. With the amazing F-22 Raptor, first flown on September 7th, 1997, that end has been met.
The Raptor is a no-holds-barred fighter, air-to-air airplane, optimized for that role. It's also a relatively expensive airplane when you compare it to the F-16.
Designed to replace the F-15 Eagle as the air superiority fighter of the early 21st century, the Raptor is the first aircraft in the world that can cruise at supersonic speeds without the use of an afterburner. With the afterburner, it can reach Mach 2. Its ability to vector its thrust gives it unmatched maneuverability, and its onboard computing power is the equivalent of 2 Cray supercomputers. But as exceptional as these qualities are, the ability to combine them with stealth is what makes this aircraft the progenitor of a new generation of warplanes, designing the jet nozzles to dissipate heat, thus avoiding infrared detection, creating quieter engines, and using a variety of paint schemes that enable the aircraft to blend into the sky are all part of this technology. So is utilizing exotic synthetic composite materials in the plane's construction that absorb radar signals. Applying this technology to building stealth aircraft is incredibly expensive, but that's changing thanks to a revolution in aircraft manufacturing wrought by the computer. Building a full-scale mock-up used to be the only way to see how a new aircraft would fit together. Now that's unnecessary.
We have learned to use computer simulation in the design and manufacture of our components.
These astounding techniques are now being used to develop another amazing aircraft called the Joint Strike Fighter, or JSF, which is being designed to meet the needs of the Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps. The main challenge in building the JSF is combining the very different requirements of these 3 services in a single aircraft. Naval aircraft require a stronger airframe due to the stress of carrier catapult takeoffs and tailhook landings. The Marines want a vertical takeoff and landing replacement for the AV-8 Harrier. The attempt to build a single aircraft that would suit the needs of more than one service has been tried before, but the results have been disappointing.
I think any problems with a multi-service platform's been solved because we're not trying to build one airplane for all services. We're building a family of airplanes that are largely common in their design and their structural makeup. So by building this family concept, we can meet the unique requirements of each service.
In 1996, Boeing and Lockheed Martin were chosen as finalists to compete in the development of the Joint Strike Fighter. The Boeing demonstrator is the X-32. The Lockheed Martin demonstrator is the X-35. Only one of them will be awarded the contract for the winning design in 2001. In order to fulfill the Marines' need for a vertical and short takeoff and landing plane, both versions of the JSF have a light yet powerful engine.
As power plant technology improves, we get much more power in smaller spaces and less weight. Then we get the ability to lift heavier objects like the Joint Strike Fighter in the air vertically with that engine power. Such machines as the Joint Strike Fighter serve as a very good crossover, carrying the punch that an airplane can carry in terms of heavy weapons, but also being able to operate from small areas and operate vertically.
Yet despite this high power-to-weight ratio, the JSF will have about the same flying capabilities as the 1970s era F-16.
Actually, the performance of Joint Strike Fighter is not going to be aerodynamically breathtaking. The services have said all we need is something that can fly essentially as well as the F-16, and that's basically what they're going to get.
However, pure flying ability is only one part of the picture, and overall, the JSF will be far superior to the F-16.
The difference between Joint Strike Fighter, whether it's the Boeing concept or the Lockheed Martin concept, and the F-16, is that this aircraft is going to have much, much, much better stealth.
But no matter how stealthy an aircraft is, the weapons it carries are not.
With a stealthy airplane, you don't want anything out there that reflects a signature. If you're carrying external weapons, they will reflect. So even though they may not be able to see the airplane carrying it, if they can see the weapons, it won't make any difference. They'll home in on the weapons and they'll get you.
To solve this problem, the Joint Strike Fighter uses the same solution that was applied to the F-22 Raptor. It hides its weapons inside its stealthy body in internal bays.
We open the doors And on our doors, actually, you'll see missiles attached. And that's how we fire the air-to-air or air-to-ground missiles. Inside are the bombs that we would eject away from the airplane. So they're very, very strong doors. They're also very quick. So they open up, you eject the weapon, and the doors close. While the doors are open, of course, now you appear on radar screens. So you want that to be as short a period as possible. When the doors close, you disappear again.
The Joint Strike Fighter is designed to satisfy the requirements of the Air Force, Navy, and Marines. But the United States Army has very different needs. Denied by congressional mandate from operating fixed-wing aircraft, the Army has filled its desire for close air support with helicopters. Combat helicopters are divided into two types. Scout helicopters, like the Vietnam-era Loach, gather vital tactical information. Also vital to the Army are attack choppers like the Apache. With their ability to fly low and dart up from behind cover, attack helicopters are potent tank killers. This was lethally demonstrated during Desert Storm, when missile-equipped Apaches decimated Iraqi armored forces. Yet despite the Apache's success, in the 1990s, the Army began to look for a way to combine the scout and attack roles in a single helicopter.
What the U.S. Army has decided to do is to concentrate a great deal of effort to developing a scout attack vehicle, which is capable of defending itself and defeating targets, but more importantly, is capable of finding those targets and getting that information back to the commander.
The fulfillment of this goal was the Sikorsky Comanche, the first helicopter designed to both seek and destroy. Able to operate day or night and in all weather, it can carry 14 Hellfire anti-tank missiles, 28 Stinger air-to-air missiles, and a 20mm Gatling gun that can smother a target with 1,500 rounds a minute. Its 1,432 horsepower turbine engine enables the Comanche to dash to 175 knots and cruise at 165. It can execute snap turns in 4.5 seconds and fly sideways or backwards at an amazing 70 miles per hour. Yet as impressive as the Comanche's firepower and speed are, its most amazing feature is its stealth. Previously, helicopters have had massive radar signatures due to their large whirling blades. Along with their relatively slow speeds, this made them excellent targets for enemy air defenses. But with a composite airframe and a still secret method of masking its blades in flight, the Comanche has less than 1% of the radar cross-section of a Kiowa, the scout chopper it will soon replace.
Comanche represents a blend of several different kinds of technology. Most important, perhaps, for a mission is low observables, that it is, in fact, relatively invisible to the radars and infrared systems that might be looking for it.
Its engines and skin radiate less than half the heat emissions of the older craft, and it makes only half as much rotor noise. Taking a tip from the fixed-wing JSF, the Comanche will also carry its weapons in hidden bays that will only open during an attack. Capabilities like these will allow the Comanche to attack before its targets even know it's there. The new developments in stealth technology promise to completely transform aerial warfare. But advancements are also being made in the civilian world. Appropriately, many of these are being pioneered at a place and in a family of aircraft that are practically synonymous with advanced aviation. The place is Edwards Air Force Base, and the aircraft are the X-planes.
In the next hour, from barnstorming to Blue Angels, air shows on Modern Marvels.
Introducing the new Nissan Murano for your adventures in on-roading.
Attention homeowners and gardeners. Now you can have perfect compost every time in only 14 days with the Compost Tumbler, the garden miracle that turns your yard and kitchen waste into free homemade compost. When it comes to your flower beds and gardens, nothing works better than compost for aerating, nourishing, and promoting root growth. But the problem has always been that getting good compost is just too hard, until now. With the Compost Tumbler, you'll not only have the world's best compost in only 14 days, you'll get it the easy way, with no more smelly and unsightly compost piles, no more back-breaking work, and no more waiting up to a year for inferior compost.
Been 100% good. It's just unbelievable what it's done for me.
Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned gardener, you'll always have plenty of rich, dark, nutrient-filled compost for your garden and flower beds the fast, easy way. The secret is the Compost Tumbler's unique heat core design with its revolutionary aeration, drainage, and mixing system. You'll always get rich, sweet-smelling compost guaranteed. With the Compost Tumbler, you can't make a mistake. Just load it with any organic kitchen and yard waste. Give it a good turn, and one full turn every day. The Compost Tumbler does the rest. It's that easy.
I love it. The Compost Tumbler really saved a lot of labor for me and also increases the amount of compost that we're being able to make. The Compost Tumbler just gives me more time and more compost when I need it.
The Compost Tumbler even comes in 2 sizes to suit your needs. Find out how the Compost Tumbler can make your flower beds and gardens the best on the block. Here's how.
To get your no-obligation information packet absolutely free, call 1-800-477-9600. That's 1-800-477-9600 for free information. Call now, 1-800-477-9600.
They turned the tide of the Revolutionary War. Their stealth and skill have turned every battle since.
I'm not some crazy person. I'm out there in defense of my country.
Josh Binswanger looks at this controversial aspect of military training. Snipers. Tonight at 8 on the History Channel.
The History Channel now returns to Fly Past.
When an experimental aircraft first soars into the unknown, designers usually face more questions than answers. Computers and calculations, simulations and wind tunnel tests can only take a designer so far. There comes a time when an aircraft must take to the sky. The abstract world of numbers and diagrams must face a real world of metal, engines, gravity, and air. At the NASA Dryden Flight Research Center at Edwards Air Force Base in California, visionaries have been testing the limits of man and machine for decades. It was here that Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier in 1946 in the X-1. It was also here, on October 3rd, 1967, that the legendary X-15 set the speed record for a manned aircraft, which still stands, Mach 6.7. And it is here now, in the California desert, that the next era of flight will begin. One that will extend beyond the atmosphere into the blackness of space. The program is called the Space Launch Initiative, or SLI. Its goal is to reduce the cost of launching commercial and military satellites into orbit by a factor of 10. Today, when a rocket lofts a satellite into orbit, the cost is a staggering $10,000 for every pound. The rocket is never used again. But what if there was a machine that could launch like an aircraft, shoot into space, put the satellite in orbit, land, refuel, and fly again? To fulfill these objectives, a new family of unmanned X-planes are being developed. Among them were the recently canceled X-33 and X-34.
Well, there's really 3 X-planes right now that are grouped in the SLI. And those 3 airplanes are the X-33, the X-34, and the X-37. Each of the airplanes has its own distinct objectives and mission, but there's a common thread with all 3 of those vehicles, which is autonomous operations.
The X-33 was a 63-foot-long unpiloted drone, constructed of titanium and composite materials, designed to test a host of new technologies. Powering the X-33 to speeds of Mach 15 and altitudes of over 260,000 feet, was the J2S linear aerospike engine, which was 75% smaller than a comparable rocket engine. The X-34, a 58-foot craft with a 27-foot wingspan, also tested new technologies. Among them was the new Fast Track engine. The Fast Track was a powerful single-stage system with far fewer parts than any previous engine. Most engines take 7 years to develop, but the Fast Track made it from concept to delivery in only 2.5. Each engine would have cost a fifth of previous standard rocket engines, meeting NASA's goal of better, cheaper, faster. Another factor that contributed to its economy was the relatively small crew it would need to prepare for a flight.
The other objective of the X-34 was to try to reduce the number of people that were required to actually touch the vehicle. There are literally thousands of people that actually touch the shuttle to prepare it and turn it around to go do another orbital flight.
While the suborbital X-33 and X-34 may have skirted the boundaries of space, they were unable to leave the atmosphere. The X-37, however, is a true space plane. Measuring 27 feet long with a 15-foot wingspan, the X-37 boasts a 7x4-foot cargo bay that will allow for a series of experimental payloads. The X-37 will be carried into orbit by the space shuttle and remain in space up to 21 days before landing back on Earth. One common characteristic of the X-33 and the X-37 is that they both employ an unusual airframe called a lifting body. These craft depend not on wings, but on the wedge shape of the plane's fuselage to generate aerodynamic lift. This gives them several advantages over traditional wing designs. The lifting body shape allows it to have large internal volume to carry cargo and still be able to withstand the rigors of re-entry. Tested at Edwards from 1963 to 1975 in a series of bizarre-looking X-planes, the lifting body principle was incorporated in the design of the space shuttle. But the X-33 and X-37 carry the concept further, practically doing away with wings altogether. These unmanned X-craft are stepping stones toward a future replacement for the space shuttle. The X-38, on the other hand, is designed to complement the space shuttle by providing astronauts aboard the International Space Station with a space-borne lifeboat called the Crew Recovery Vehicle, or CRV. During an emergency, the CRV is designed to travel from the station to the Earth in 90 minutes under completely autonomous computerized control, while carrying 7 astronauts in its 16-foot cabin. The CRV will be pre-programmed to land, guided by a sophisticated global positioning system. The astronauts just push a button. The CRV will do the rest. Since the CRV is a lifting body with high landing speeds requiring very long runways, it will use a parafoil to limit its speed after re-entry. Essentially a large parachute, the parafoil deploys as the CRV enters the lower atmosphere. The unique shape of the parafoil also allows for a measure of aerodynamic control.
The vehicle would land at much lower speeds, so it could literally be landed in a small town general aviation airport. It would touch down much, much slower.
As remarkable as the X-38 is, of all the X-planes now in development at Edwards, perhaps the most amazing is the X-43A hypersonic test vehicle. Hypersonic is a term used to describe speeds of over Mach 5, or 5 times the speed of sound. For the last 3 decades, the fastest known aircraft in the world has been the turbo ramjet-powered SR-71 Blackbird, which can travel over 3 times the speed of sound. The X-43A, however, is an amazing 12-foot bullet of an aircraft that will rip through the sky at speeds up to Mach 10, more than 7,000 miles per hour, 3 times faster than the SR-71. Its speed will be due to a revolutionary engine called a scramjet, standing for Supersonic Combustion Ramjet. A scramjet breathes air like a conventional turbojet, but produces the power of a small rocket engine. It also uses the shape of the vehicle itself as an integral part of the engine's air inlet and its combustion chamber. Attached to a Pegasus booster rocket, the X-43A will be lofted to an altitude of 20,000 feet by NASA's B-52. When released, the rocket will fire. pushing the X-43A to speeds of Mach 7 to 10. The vehicle will then break away from the rocket, and the scramjet will ignite, propelling the little drone over the Pacific Ocean while it transmits valuable flight data back to engineers monitoring the flight on the ground.
It will just continue westbound and be crashed, in essence, into the ocean at the end of the flight. And the reason for that is there are a lot of costs associated with trying to actually recover the vehicle on a runway.
When this radical technology is someday perfected, it could change the way we think of time and distance, leading to aircraft capable of flying across the United States in half an hour. And unlike the X-planes of the past, the new X-planes will be perfected with considerably less risk to the lives of test pilots.
That, in essence, is why we go fly these things and find out where any potential weak points or any issues are so that we can correct them on the X vehicle before the vehicle is expected to carry human beings.
Carrying passengers and cargo to the threshold of space is the goal of the new X-planes. But like their ancestors in the X-series, they have a larger purpose as well: to expand the horizons of flight. It is an aim shared by all the other advanced aeronautical concepts now taking shape around the globe. From unmanned drones that will help reveal the secrets of both man and science, to combat planes and helicopters that strike like lightning, but are invisible to electronic sensors, to a rescue vehicle for the airless vacuum of space. Aircraft exemplify humanity's instinctive need to expand the borders of possibility. This quest will never end, for the cutting edge of aeronautical technology will always be defined by the boundless horizons of the human imagination.
NASA officials have long dreamed of sending a ship beyond the outer reaches of our solar system, and a design known as a solar sail may someday make that dream a reality. Unlike rockets, which burn massive amounts of fuel, solar sails are propelled by reflecting particles of light, a cheap, easily renewable source of energy. Once launched, NASA estimates that it will take a solar sail about 15 years to cross the threshold of interstellar space. For the History Channel, I'm Roger Mudd. Thanks for watching.
Tomorrow I shall come into office in my own right. Then, watch out for me. We are not building this country for a day. It is to last through the ages.
Rough Rider, War Hero, President, TR, An American Lion. Tonight at 9 on the History Channel.
This is a Fly Past History-a-thon, all day today on the History Channel.
The History Channel proudly presents Fly Past on home video. This amazing series detailing the history of manned flight is available in a 4 VHS set for only $39.95 plus shipping and handling. To order, call 1-800-708-1776 or shop online at historychannel.com.
Today we're going to see how a customer order turns into their perfect PC.
All the orders come in here. Don't forget the website. I mean, all the orders come in either here or the website.
I put it all together. Big old hard drive, extra memory for performance, CD burner. Don't touch that. Every machine's a custom job.
They call you the customizer?
No, they don't.
After testing, I pack it up and ship it out. An award-winning 24/7 service and support goes with it.
Happy trails, little buddy. Hope S. Jackson gives you a good home.
Call or go online now and get a Dimension desktop with a flat panel display for just $6.99 after a $100 mail-in rebate. Featuring an Intel Pentium 4 processor for awesome performance for today's digital entertainment, recording music, sharing photos, gaming, and beyond. And right now, you'll get a free CD burner. Get great deals on notebooks, too.
Dude, we're getting another Dell. Sweet.
When you want your perfect PC, it's easy as Dell. Dell PCs use Intel Pentium 4 processors.
Stanley's family is as playful as an ostrich. She must be doing at least 40. Bye! And more fun-loving than a pack of penguins. Yahoo!
You make a great penguin, Mommy. Bluebirds are pretty special birds.
And I can think of someone else who's pretty special, too.
Flock together with the Griffs. I have one strange family. Stanley, every morning inside Playhouse Disney, only on Disney Channel.
Let's do it together. Yeah!
It's West Broad Hyundai's Hyundai Fun Day sale. We've slashed prices on every Hyundai for the big event because all we do is discount Hyundais. Take a look at the Santa Fe. At $16,895, it's a ton of fun Hyundai style. Loaded for just $16,895. All we do is discount Hyundais. And it comes with the Hyundai Advantage, America's best warranty. Get a Santa Fe for just $16,895 at West Broad Hyundai during our Hyundai Fun Day sale.
This program is brought to you in part by GMC.
Blue Angels and Barnstormers, aerobatic superstars, and supersonic jet fighters, local family festivals, and billion-dollar expos. Now, air shows on Modern Marvels.
Boise, Idaho, Greg Poe.
As airshow pilot Greg Poe begins 10 minutes of outrageous stunt flying, 10,000 spectators stare in unison at the blue skies over California's Watsonville Fly-In and Air Show.
I get to demonstrate before people what technology is done when it's applied to airplanes today, and it'll knock your socks off. The wow factor is incredible, and it's very rewarding.
That's what Watsonville is all about.
Watsonville is one of the country's longest-running continuous air shows. From antique aircraft to jet cars, it is one of hundreds of small American air shows that showcase top local talent alongside national all-stars.
What do you think of that, ladies and gentlemen?
The day ends with a heart-stopping precision performance by pilot Eddie Andrini and wing walker Anders Brandon.
That has got to be the ride of a lifetime.
This is my pilot. He didn't fall off, that's the main thing. We had the great weather, we had the great performances, and we had a great crowd. It was a marketer's dream today. What can I say? This is no longer just an aviation event. This is a family event.
Today's air shows are in fact an entertainment phenomenon. In North America alone, they are an $80 million a year industry.
Each year, air shows around the United States and Canada attract between 15 and 18 million people. That puts it just behind Major League Baseball as one of the largest spectator events in the country.
It's the Indianapolis 500 and the Top Gun and the 4th of July all rolled into one.
Back in 1903, the Wright brothers' historic first flight was received with far less enthusiasm.
The reaction to the flight by the public and the media was not very much. In fact, the classic story is that one of the Kitty Hawk natives came into the post office at Kitty Hawk on December the 17th, 1903, and announced to the few people in the post office, "Damn if they ain't flew."
By 1908, other inventors, like motorcycle designer Glenn Curtis, had developed their own versions of the state-of-the-art biplane.
They needed to have the two wings, top and bottom, and the bracing and strut in between them to make a good, strong structure. And of course, they thought that two wings would give them more lift than one, and that was actually correct. At this point in aviation, individuals were willing to try anything to see if it would work. There was continual evolution between 1903 and 1909.
In 1908, the Wrights went public with their planes, flying for a record 2 minutes and 17 seconds in front of a crowd of French aviation enthusiasts. France had led the aviation industry since the Montgolfier brothers' first balloon flight in 1783. In 1909,
France reclaimed its leadership by hosting the world's first air show in Reims. In what was dubbed the Great Week of the Champagne, Glenn Curtiss beat out 3 of the Wright brothers' planes to set the new world record for speed. Less than a month later, the city of Paris launched the first Paris Air Show. 100,000 people flocked to the spectacular 3-week exhibit. America followed with its first air show in Dominguez Hills, California in 1910. Aviation was only 7 years old, but airplanes and air shows were already a hit. By 1911, Glenn Curtiss had launched an exhibition team, starring daring pilot Lincoln Beechey. Curtiss hoped his air shows would stir up interest in his new aircraft and squash any competition from the Wright brothers. When the U.S. entered World War I in 1917, Curtiss had won. 90% of America's pilots were trained on Curtiss Aeroplane and Motor Company's signature JN-4 biplane, nicknamed the Jenny.
The engine was an OX-5 engine, which had about 90 horsepower, as compared to about 400 horsepower for the de Havilland DH-4 that was the actual fighter airplane. The performance of the Jenny was marginal, but it was easy to repair, and it flew very slowly, so when you crashed, you probably survived.
More than 8,000 Jennies ultimately were built for the U.S., Canada, and Great Britain. The plane never saw action during the war, but afterwards, it changed the face of aviation and reinvented the air show.
After World War I, the government made a lot of these Curtiss Jennies available as surplus at just several $100s a piece. These pilots wanted to continue to fly, and the only way that was available to them at that time was to buy these Jennies and take up people and give them rides around the town.
Most demonstrations were in farmers' fields, and there usually was a barn somewhere in the area, and so they became known as barnstormers.
Barnstorming brought air shows, however spontaneous and rudimentary, to the masses. As more and more pilots began competing for customers, aerobatics, or stunt flying, took off. Without safety gear or parachutes, legendary barnstormers like Ormer Locklear, Bessie Coleman, and Lillian Boyer crisscrossed the country doing daredevil stunts. Throughout the roaring 20s, at any given time, as many as 600 aviators could be seen staging their outrageous air shows.
The way we would work it, we'd find a nice field that looked okay and land and talk to the farmer who owned the property and ask him if we could operate out of his field. We lived pretty good. We slept under the wing of the airplane, and we built up an awful lot of time.
Aviation was still a wonder, and watching airplanes fly overhead was an incredible experience. Here were these airplanes doing rolls and climb and so forth that gave people an opportunity to get caught up in the romance of entertainment.
By the mid-20s, seasoned air show performers were banding together to form even bigger spectacles, known as flying circuses.
A flying circus has to do with a group of people that all decide to incorporate and go from place to place. And they'd advertise that this so-and-so is the greatest in whatever he did.
Flying circus performers didn't just fly. They walked on wings blindfolded, staged mock boxing matches mid-air, and jumped from plane to plane. Famous shows like the Gates Flying Circus drew as many as 30,000 spectators. Flying circuses offered a thrilled public the chance to witness the impossible and sometimes the tragically inevitable.
For all the barnstormers during that period of time in the post-World War I era, there was essentially no regulation in terms of flight safety, flight locations, airplane safety, and so forth. It was not one of the world's safe things to do.
There were 85 barnstorming-related deaths and 126 injuries in 1923 alone. With an average of 70 people a year dying in plane crashes by 1925, in 1926, the government was ready to step in.
The Air Commerce Act said that not only did pilots have to have licenses to fly, but that airplanes had to be certified to be safe to fly.
It was really the start of the imposition of the federal government into aviation. One of the barnstormers was quoted as saying, "My way of earning a living is over."
Barnstorming was on the way out, but a brand new air show was about to roar in. Next, the superpowers go supersonic as military jet teams redefine the air show. The Wright brothers' patent on wing warping to control flight so restricted aviation that by 1960, only 411 planes had been built in the U.S. Air shows will return on Modern Marvels.
Introducing the Saturn Ion, specifically designed and engineered for whatever's next.
I don't really know what sets it off, but you definitely get a craving for milk chocolate.
It's just like, you gotta have it.
Really doesn't take much. A breeze, a tickle on the back of my neck, boom.
I need chocolate now. Hershey's, baby.
Your tongue is just like, you know, hello. Takes me to a better place.
It kind of combats that stressful feeling at the back of your neck.
It brings you up.
When I'm tired, I eat chocolate.
When I'm happy, when I'm sad.
Nervous.
Rejection.
Rejection.
Like I'm eating it before I even get to the checkout line.
What triggers me to eat chocolate is just the pure abandonment and joy you get from it.
Fred, the sooner you order that server, the sooner I can change my mind about it.
Can't talk now, Fred. Got a network to crash.
Don't kill yourself, Fred. We don't need those upgrades till tomorrow.
Hey, Fred, the computer says system failure. Is that bad?
Dealing with technology is hard. That's why CDW makes buying it as simple as possible, with a personal account manager who understands what you need and gets back to you quickly.
Fred, someday we'll look back on this server thing and laugh.
CDW, the right technology, right away.
Mr. Stevens?
Yeah.
Got you down for over 130 channels, $39.99 a month.
Right, so...
every channel's digital quality. There's access to 31 premium movie channels, 60 pay-per-view movie titles a month.
Great. So that can go on the back of the roof?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, good. So go ahead and pull around back.
You work for the cable company, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why settle for cable? Switch to DirecTV and get over 130 channels, only $39.99 a month. Call 1-800-DirecTV or visit a participating retailer now.
Hi, I have to get copier, laser, and inkjet paper sizes A3, A4, toner, printer ink, letterpress envelopes, legal envelopes, padded shipping envelopes, memo pads, legal pads, stickies, labels, and pens.
Okay. Come right this way. We've got everything all together over here. You've got your ink and toner, paper, laser, inkjet, copier, envelopes, memo pads, files, file folders, stickies, pens, ballpoints, felt tips, highlighters. We've got it all right here so you can get going fast.
Office Depot is the fastest way to restock for the new year, with easy-to-find special sections loaded with the essentials. Office Depot. What you need to know.
Yo, yes, you're excited. Woo. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking Beneful. You've never seen anything like it before. It has wholesome grains, real beef, even carrots and peas. So there's carbohydrates for energy and protein for those serious muscles. And you even get some vegetables. So happy. Love it so much you only think you're getting spoiled. Yes, you do. But it's good for you, too.
Healthful, flavorful, Beneful. Beneful brand by Purina.
We now return to air shows on Modern